Yes people, today I'm going to show you the best settings and the settings I use for my GoPro to make that epic cinematic footage. My name's Ash, aka Boy and Camera, and if you love traveling and want to turn real life into movies, then this is where you need to be. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure you follow my Instagram for more tips and see what I do day to day. A lot of people have been asking me what settings I use for my GoPro, so let's get straight into it.
So yes guys, this is my room and I have my GoPro here with me. I'm still rocking the GoPro Hero 7 because it's still pretty dope. It's a bit battered. And the new GoPro has just come out, which is the GoPro Hero 9, which looks insane. And I'm definitely going to get my hands on that soon. But I'm going to stick with the GoPro Hero 7 for now. Let's just turn it on. So here you can see my screen and you can see my settings at the bottom. So I'm just going to click that. So this brings up all the settings that I'm going to tune and give you the best settings to make that cinematic footage. So click the top left, which is your FPS and your resolution. I would go for anything above 2.7K, so 4K or 2.7K. Either one of them is going to look good. I wouldn't go below that. And in terms of your FPS, which is your frames per second, I would go with 60 FPS because that's what's going to give you that buttery smooth footage, especially if you're using slow-mo, which I always rinse in my videos. If you go above that on the GoPro Hero 7, it can say that the stabilization isn't supported, which is annoying, but the newer GoPros can support that. But stabilization is really key, so make sure stabilization is always supported in your videos. If you guys have got the GoPro Hero 7, I'm going to tell you guys to select 2.7K as a resolution. I will tell you why later, just trust me on that, alright?
Now I'm going to let you in on an absolute game changer. GoPros are known for that fisheye lens distortion, which can be useful for first person view shots, but I'm not about that fisheye life. I always shoot on linear mode, which takes away that distortion. You don't see movies or films shot with that fisheye lens, do you? It just doesn't happen. So this was shot in super view mode, and yeah, it does look quite cool, but my man Ryu looking a bit more swole and distorted than normal. And see how the table doesn't look straight, the edges got that curvature to it. Now this was shot in linear mode, Ryu looking a bit more natural, and look at the straight edges of the table. Now with the GoPro Hero 7, if you want to shoot on linear mode, the quality and resolution has to be 2.7K. I know the newer ones can shoot on 4K and linear mode, so if you want that, get your hands on the GoPro Hero 9, but for me it's not a big deal. 2.7K is just as good as 4K for me.
Once you've done these two settings, then low light should say NA. In terms of your stabilization, put that on auto, that's essential. Stabilization is always key to make cinematic footage. Pro Tune should be on because that allows you to mess around with the settings. I would always leave shutter as auto and EV comp as -1. So in terms of white balance, I would select native. If you go too low, then your footage is going to look very blue, and if you go too high, it's going to look orange. So select native for that balanced look. So then we come to ISO, and this is really important for your GoPro, and I would always set your minimum and maximum. Essentially ISO brightens and darkens your video. I would set the ISO minimum to 100. The higher you go, the brighter your video becomes, but then it adds a lot of noise to your video and it looks really grainy, so I wouldn't go too high, especially during daytime. I would always put the maximum to about 200 or 100. I wouldn't really go above 400 because your footage is going to look dead in my opinion. So set your maximum to 200 or 100. So for sharpness, I would set it as low. That might sound odd because you want your video to be crisp, but GoPros tend to sharpen your footage a bit too much. So I would always set this as low. And if I want to sharpen it, then I can always do that when I'm editing. Now I would set my color as flat. That means that I can add the cinematic filters and I'm going to play around with the colors. If you don't have time and you can't be asked to edit, then I would go with the GoPro color, which is pretty decent. And then the rest of your settings, I would set raw audio as off. Your mic should be on auto. And that's pretty much it, guys. So if I just want to summarize that quickly, so resolution and your FPS, if you're on the GoPro Hero 7, 2.7K and 60 FPS. Your field of view linear, your stabilization should be on auto, Pro Tune always on, shutter, set that as auto. Your EV comp, I would set that as -1, and your white balance, I would set that as native. Remember your ISO minimum, set that always at 100, and if it's daytime, then set your ISO maximum to 200, and I wouldn't really go above that. Sharpness, set that to low, and your GoPro color, set that to flat. And yep, that's pretty much it, guys.
So another important tip, guys, whether you're shooting on a phone or GoPro, always lock the exposure and the focus when you're shooting a person or an object. You could do this by tapping and holding down on the object on the screen, and it should give you a sign saying that it's been locked. This stops your exposure from changing within the video, which can be annoying sometimes, and this is really important when you're following a subject so the brightness and contrast stays the same throughout. So there you go, guys, that's the settings I use for my GoPro to make that cinematic footage. If you like what you see, make sure you drop a comment showing some love, or if you have any questions, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button. And make sure you follow my Instagram for more tips and see what I do day to day. More tutorials coming soon. Peace.